All righty, well, let's get into our first story. So, this is from the Tennessee Conservative. This is drama of Tennessee 3 takes attention away from Nashville tragedy. Drama surrounding the disciplining of three Democratic lawmakers after they used the House floor to indulge in activism has taken attention away from grieving families and from finding answers for what led a disturbed woman to take the lives of three adults and three children in a recent Nashville tragedy. In what some say was a coordinated stunt, Democratic Representatives Justin Jones, Gloria Johnson, and Justin Pearson egged on the massive protesters that inundated the Tennessee State House of Representatives in the wake of the Covenant school shooting, while Jones utilizing a bullhorn to shout along with them. Last week, Jones and Pearson were expelled from their seats while Johnson retained hers by one vote. Yesterday, the Nashville Metro Council voted to appoint Jones to fill the vacant seat from which he was expelled. House rules state that no member can be expelled twice for the same violation. Representative Susan Lynn called the three defiant and disrespectful. While we are grieving the Covenant school tragedy, they choose to raise themselves up, making themselves higher than the poor victims and their families. They use the victims to repeatedly get on the news to score political points for themselves, said Lynn. They should be ashamed of their actions. The three appeared on Good Morning America yesterday and were visited by Vice President Kamala Harris. Their plight was used as an excuse to fundraise by Knox County Democrats. Meanwhile, despite interest and public demand, the manifesto that MNPD found among the Covenant shooters' belongings has yet to be released. It has widely been reported that Audrey Hale identified as male at the time of the shooting and was being treated for an emotional disorder. Some conservative voices are asking if the cocktail of hormones and medication that Hale was likely taking could have contributed to her crimes. Side effects of taking testosterone for women can include mood swings, anger, and hostility. The larger the dose, the more likely the increase in these side effects. Women who are prescribed testosterone as part of gender-affirming care report feelings of frustration, anger, and irritability for no reason. Depending on the dose, it can also cause depression and even destabilization of bipolar or schizoaffective disorder. So, a lot to unpack there, but Anastasia, we'll go to you for the initial reaction.
Yeah, I mean, I have two first thoughts. Is when the last time I came on here is when all of this had like just been starting and all of this had just been happening. And one of the things that I had made prominent that I did not want to do was politicize the moment, which was children are dead, people are dead. And I remember saying that our president and the people in that office often politicize these events for their own benefit. And ding, 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 we have a winner because I was correct. Because then they turned around and did the exact thing that I said they were going to do the last time I was here. Which it's not funny. I smile and laugh because it's like when you see a car accident and you're so shocked that that's the only thing you know how to do, because it's sickening, because children are dead and people are dead, and that's what we should be focusing on. So that's one. Two, when you are reading off, side effects of medicine that people are taking when they're trying to be someone they weren't born to be, and it's causing this effect or this effect or this effect, it just makes me know even harder that we are in the correct fight against things like this, that we're not just fighting for this because we woke up one day and thought, maybe we don't want you to have what you want to have. It's like when you're a mom and your kid wants to go run on the highway because look at all the shiny cars. It's not that you hate them and you don't want them to have a good life or want them to have fun. It's because you know something that's going to hurt them and you want to save them from that. And so when you're reading it does this or it does that, or, thinking of people, any time I hear stories like this about like transgender people, I think about Chloe Cole, because I feel like out of a lot of people, like she's been one of the most prominent people to stand up and all of the hate that she's gotten and everything. But I think about the life that she will never get to live because of what happened to her when she was younger. And so hearing those side effects makes me know and realize that no matter the hate that we get, no matter the backlash that we get, no matter what names we're called, that we're fighting the good fight every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. Caitlin, did you follow this story very much?
I'm curious, what were they being kicked out for? Like, what was their activism about?
So essentially, after this school shooting took place, these three, who are elected Democratic representatives in the state house of Tennessee, they essentially allowed a bunch of protesters into the House floor and were basically disrupting the proceedings of the House. Now, I don't know if I should clarify. I don't know if they let the protesters into the House floor, but the three representatives, at least, were being disruptive on the House floor and were helping to essentially agitate the protesters who were there, essentially protesting. They were trying to get some new gun confiscation legislation essentially passed in Tennessee as a result of this Covenant shooting.
So they were involved in the gun control, like those people that ran in and were like demanding gun control.
Yes, so right after the Covenant shooting happened, there was actually a couple of different state brouhahas, I guess we'll call them, where they're in the Kentucky Capitol, I believe the Florida Capitol, and the Tennessee Capitol. Tennessee Capitol was, I think, the first, though, since the shooting took place here. And yes, so three Democratic representatives essentially broke the House rules and they essentially interrupted the proceedings to demand action.
Yeah, I saw the videos of all people trying to get in. I guess my take on that is I'm curious why people are so obsessed with the gun control aspect and nobody's fighting for school security. So we gave 75 billion to Ukraine in like this past year, and I feel like we're doing all this money funding all these things when we could be facing like using that money for school security. You know what I mean? Everyone just immediately goes to gun control when there are other solutions. I think a lot of the times the left goes to their solution and says, this is the only solution. And if you don't agree with me, you hate all these people.
Yeah, it's a pretty common one out of their playbook. So, Michael, do you have a response? Yeah, go ahead.
That really quick. I'm sorry.
Please jump in.
Like, to Caitlin's point, I don't want to say that I don't want to say that everyone on the left, doesn't believe in God or doesn't have like a high morality, but a lot of the people that speak for them don't seem to have that. And so when you have people that are throwing fits or doing things like that, that comes from a society that worships self instead of worships him. Because when you worship yourself and you make yourself your own idol or make yourself your God, who cares what you do? Why would it matter? Why would it matter if I am storming this or fighting against this or doing this? From a fellow homeschooler, I thank God I was homeschooled every single day. I don't know about you, but I think that all the time.
I loved it. Yes. Yeah. So.
Well, Michael, what was your initial take on the Tennessee 3?
Well, my initial take, I suppose, is that what's disturbing but undeniable is that it's not unique. I think that's my thought when I hear this story and I hear what's taking place. It's not unique. It's not like, wow, I can't believe they would do that, because it's like, okay, well, political activism has been leveraging tragedy since long before any of us were born. And we've seen great evidence of that, be it on either side of the aisle as far as the political bipartisan position would be. In this circumstance, it's just as egregious as any other time. Think of how horrifying it is to people who would otherwise be mourning or trying to find a solution. Because I guess that's just the philosophical difference between a more leftist position, is that their way of trying to find a solution so that this doesn't happen is emotionally motivated, as all of our position would likely be in the face of tragedy, but the emotional motivation lacks logic. And that's where I think a conservative perspective is just confounded by, why would you make this about you? But I would say perhaps in some cases, a liberal would say it's not about us. We want to protect kids so that doesn't happen again. That's why we need to get gun control laws. Well, it's like, yeah, but you haven't thought that through, because
It's virtue signaling to a point.
like, of
Because
course it,
they're acting like, because I don't believe in gun control, then I don't care about the kids
Yeah.
getting killed, which is absurd.
Yeah.
well, exactly. And that's why I say it's emotional and not rational, because in theory, yeah, if nobody has guns, nobody's going to shoot each other. That's a great theory. The problem is you cannot control that, and there cannot be an absolute security in that. But the guarantee is that the people who should have guns will have their guns taken away.
Well, I don't
So-
know if you guys saw that SNL clip that was going around on Twitter today, but what you're saying makes me think of that, which was this new non-binary comedian named Molly, which is one of the most feminine names I've actually ever heard, but okay. I mean, she went on saying that, you know, if you don't care about trans kids' healthcare, then you don't care about kids, period.
I did
You
see
know,
that.
like when you're running an emotional narrative like that, no wonder people don't like us. No wonder people think that we're the bad guys, because it makes us look like we don't have emotions or feelings.
But here's the kicker with that. I care very much about trans kids'
Mhm.
health care, but hormone therapy is not health care.
Mm-hmm.
It's abuse, if we want to look at it that way. But even on the more docile side of things, it's an elective measure that is not necessary medically. So it, by the simplest measure, cannot be called healthcare. And this kind of goes back to the second point I wanted to make about the original article, is that I'm not surprised that a situation like this can be leveraged for political gain, as it always has been and likely will throughout our entire lifetime. I'm also not surprised that testosterone replacement therapy is being pointed at as a culprit for increased, be it emotional trauma, aggressiveness, whatever we want to categorize that as, which I'm not denying that in the slightest. However, we have been in the midst of a mental health epidemic in our culture for many years now that is only getting much worse, and we're seeing the evidence of that through this pseudo-sexual revolution. And testosterone therapy is not the first drug to come along, or the first chemical imbalance in your endocrine system that can cause people to have mood swings and issues mentally. Any medication that you see advertised has a laundry list of all the side effects. So this is
But-
not unique.
I will say that it is unique in that it's a woman shooter, which is extremely, extremely rare
That is
for
true.
women to be
Yeah.
mass shooters.
Statistically, yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah. That's
So
an
if we're
interesting
pointing
point.
at something, it makes sense to point at the testosterone. But at the same time, the person was obviously had a lot going on.
Right. Right.